Welcome to Tomb of the. No, that's a different one with a sleeping army of Cybermen. Attack of the. No, that's a different one with a half converted Cybermen and a sleeping army. Rise of the. No, wait, that's in Pete's universe. What's this one called? Hey, that's just a synonym for Rise. This is episode 343 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 26th of February 2020. Tonight we feature, but do not rate because it's the first of a two-parter, Ascension of the Cybermen, written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Good evening.
Mad Matt Winchell,
Rabone.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Bonjour, children.
Thomas Fireheart will be unable to be with us due to the weather
Basically, active
spirits
God.
attacking Australia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Active God.
Yep. Yeah. Everything wants to kill you in Australia, including the weather.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, hopefully the rain will put out the fire.
I don't know if there's a fire. It's basically just the lost power. I mean, that
Well,
happens here sometimes, rarely these days.
I think he's mentioning the big fire, but I think that's. I don't know. I haven't been hearing that in the news lately.
Yeah.
It's at least been slowly going down, I assume. Hopefully more so now.
But yeah, he's lost power, and that's something that happens here on occasion, but not often. So, how's everybody's week been?
Hectic and anxiously waiting at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I've been busy with like every other thing going on this week because it's stream after stream after stream after stream almost every day lately. But then I've got this Sunday where I'm going to go off to see the live show Mystery Science Theater.
Oh.
Yeah. You seeing that here in Madison, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That is going to be the Madison viewing.
All right.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, YouTube's Mystery Science Theater channel just updated and they showed some behind the scenes stuff of the show.
Yeah, they were showing some of that on Thanksgiving.
I have now seen Crow on a unicycle.
Yes, that was originally shown on Thanksgiving.
Okay, because yeah, I didn't see that because I missed out on that. But yeah, I'm like, oh, well, here's hype. Showed it to my friend who's also one of my friends who's also going to be joining me, and he went, oh shit, yes.
Yeah, I think that was part of the Thanksgiving broadcast. Aaron has inherited a ticket to go to C2E2 in Chicago.
That's right. She has that going on.
Mm-hmm. So that's the the Chicago Comics and Electronics Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Or Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo, excuse me. There used to be a different C2E2 called the Consumer Electronics Expo in Chicago. But that was like 20, 30 years ago. So that was back when I was working for the university, yeah. So I have an interesting, weird story.
Okay.
Starting on Monday, our oven started burbling.
Burbling?
Yeah. It almost sounds like a percolator. And of course, so we sent a repair guy in, and he says the oven timer has apparently going bad. It sounds currently like, those whistling teapots?
Yeah.
You know how they sound just before they whistle? You can hear the water in there bubbling, and it's almost like you can hear the steam starting to come out, but it's not making quite a sound yet. Yeah, that's what our oven sounds like.
That's a little funky.
Yeah, well, we're getting a new one next Monday, so we just have to put up with it for a week.
There you go.
But still, that's
which reminds me of the hassle my family's been going through. So I forget what it is. My mom's doing something so she can finally get some money. First of all, to help patch up on the cars, but also secondly, so we can finally put down some money to finally get a washer and dryer for our clothes here in the house again. We've been like almost 2 years without one at this rate. obviously she's getting sick and tired of it as well as everybody else. It'd be just nice to constantly just do laundry whenever we have time, instead of only on the weekends. And she's probably have been told for like the third time she needs to resend the paperwork. At each and every time, it's either her or somebody else messes up the dating on the paperwork. Like, I think the first time she got the paperwork from them, she didn't realize there's a date printed on the thing. And apparently, they don't even give her a week to send in the paperwork before the due date's up. And then when she gets the paperwork done, the person that has to co-sign it has to go through like somebody else too. They have to sign at the same date, otherwise it also gets sent back to us, and that's the second reason why we've been told it needs to go back again. And it's just like, oh, for crying out loud. It's enough to make a person go nutty. So that's been a thing. But yeah, for the Mystery Science Theater thing, my buddy Fred bought tickets for me, himself, and Mike. And basically, me and Mike are going, oh, that's about $8 we owe you. So if there's any merch you want, let us know. And we'll probably buy dinner for him. And maybe even gas, because he's got to go all the way from Milwaukee up to us, pick us up, and then back to Madison.
You mean Milwaukee go and then continue on to Madison, don't you?
No, he's coming from Milwaukee. That's where he lives.
Yes.
He has to come up to us, pick us up, and then go back down to Madison.
I wouldn't think it'd be that far out of the way. But,
That's anyway. A 2-hour trip, anyway.
Anyway, tonight's show, we have news and birthdays. We do not have any Geek Talk now, because Thomas was our Geek Talk for the week, and he's not here. I don't really have a rant this week. We do have a review of Shame, as Bill is going to try to catch up a little more with Pyramids of Mars. We are going to discuss the new Cybermen and elements of Doctor Who. And then we will do our summary and our review and final thoughts. Well, semi-final thoughts. So let's get into the news. We have birthdays, a few of them. First one was on the 20th of February, and that is of Anji Mohindra, who played Rani Chandra in Sarah Jane Adventures, and of course came back recently to play Queen Skithra in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Yep.
She turned 30. Also, the same day is the birthday of Tony Head, or Anthony Stewart Head, if you remember him from his classic days. He played Mr. Finch in 2006's School Reunion, but is best known as being Rupert Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, not the movie. He turned 66.
Yes, Giles.
The 24th of February sees the birthday of David Gooderson, who played Davros in Destiny of the Daleks. Way back in 1978, he turned 79. And then today, the 26th of February, sees the birthday of Ingrid Oliver, who played Osgood from 2012 to 2015, a member of UNIT. She turned 43. Also, the same day is the birthday of Tony Selby, who played Sabalam Glitz from 86 to 87. He turned 82. So that's it for birthdays. Happy birthday to Anji, Tony, David, Ingrid, and other Tony.
I still wouldn't mind Glitz showing up in a modern Who story.
I don't know. He's just so 80s. I mean, he is
the... When does the 90s or the 80s not get brought back? Come on. Maybe a little bit of an update to the character's design, but not much.
It will be the 80s and the 90s forever.
He's also
his
like
grandson
82.
Glam appears.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if he wound up having a kid and they wind up with Sabalon something Glitz. That's his kid, and maybe, as much of a rogue or, a completely opposite of his character. kind of make
like
it a
give him
linear.
like a quick cameo and then send off his kid who's going to do some of the stuff he used to do or something. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to episode news.
Yep, we have ratings. Overnight figures for Ascension of the Cybermen are in, and it was watched by a total of 3.71 million viewers, a drop of about 0.15 million from last week. This equates to 19.1% of the total viewing audience, which was the 8th most popular show on British TV Sunday. Doctor Who was once again blown away by its direct ITV opposition, Dancing on Ice, which had 4.39 million viewers. The number one show that day was once again Call the Midwife, with 6.29 million viewers. Country File was the lead into Doctor Who and had 4.84 million. Last Tango in Halifax, returning after a few-year hiatus, had 4.89 million watching. ITV1's Endeavour had 3.93 million watching. We should have final figures for this episode next week.
I always think Country File is related to Countryside, and I have to remind myself it's not.
Nope. All right. Moving to previous episode news.
All right. The final ratings from the Broadcasting Research Audience Board, which should be abbreviated as BRAB, are in for Haunting of the Villa Diodati. Officially, Diodati had 5.07 million viewers in the United Kingdom, a rise of 0.17 million. 4.95 million watched the episode on a TV set, 61,000 on their PC, 36,000 on a tablet, and 31,000 on a smartphone. This episode was the 31st most watched show across all television. It had a 22.9% share of the total ITV audience. You're editing it while I'm reading it, it looks like.
No, I'm just looking at it.
Oh.
I'm making notes.
You're making Bill nervous.
The week's top show was ITV's White House Farm with 8.67 million watching. The Audience Appreciation Index for Haunting of the Villa Diodati was 80, 2 points over last week and 2 points under the Doctor Who average of 82, although I'm not sure how often we've been calculating that average.
I'm going to recalculate it at the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see what the new season average is.
Yeah.
It might have lowered.
Yeah, it might have.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to recalculate it every single episode. That would be a pain in the ass. So I'm gonna do it between seasons.
Gotcha. 80 though.
Yeah.
That seems lower than I'd expect for this
episode.
Yeah,
it was not a bad episode. I would have thought, at minimum 81.
Clearly not fans of gothic science fiction.
I can tell you this: the Doctor Who average used to be 83, but dropped to 82 after last season. So we'll see what happens with this one. But yeah, just as an FYI, when I build these, and this is mostly to the people out there, since everybody on the podcast knows this. When I build these rating figures, I use the previous week's figures as a basis for the script and just kind of change the numbers. That way I can tell what's risen, what's dropped, etc.
That's where we got the 31st most watched show.
Yeah, and occasionally I do miss little pieces of extended text like that because I'm in a hurry when I'm doing it. But yeah, that's where we get 31st. All right. So the BBC has released information for the Timeless Children, the series finale. Here is the synopsis. This is going to hurt. In the epic and emotional series finale, the Cybermen are on the march. As the last remaining humans are ruthlessly hunted down, Graham, Ryan, and Yaz face a terrifying fight to survive. Civilizations fall. Others rise anew. Lies are exposed. Truths are revealed. Battles are fought. And for the Doctor, trapped and alone, nothing will ever be the same again. Here's the cast list. Sasha Darwin as the Master, returning from Spyfall and Ascension of the Cybermen. Patrick O'Kane as Ashad, the Zealot Cyberman, returning from the Haunting of the Villa Diodati and Ascension of the Cybermen. Ian McElhenney as Kosh Sharmas, returning from Ascension of the Cybermen. Julie Graham as Ravio, also returning from Ascension of the Cybermen. Matt Carver as Ethan, also returning from Ascension of the Cybermen. Alex Austin as Yedlami, also returning from Ascension of the Cybermen. Rhiannon Clements as Beskett, also returning from Ascension of the Cybermen. Salen Baxter as Tectian, a new character, as well as Kirsty Besterman as Solpado. I don't know where they're going to fit in yet. We'll have to see. And we have pictures.
Oh, I noticed Brendan was not one of those names. Makes those scenes all the stranger.
I assume that one of the new names given is probably who Brendan really is.
We'll see.
There was also some speculation that I think Thomas and I were both sharing that I'm not sure if there's a good time to mention that speculation.
We can talk about it later. Not right here.
Yeah. Looking through images.
Yeah, let's
see.
They
Mostly seem like just glamour shots of the cast members.
Well, we've got the Cybermen marching apparently into Kosh Sharmas's tent.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Yaz and Graham trapped on the ship. Then we've got, most of these were the casting. Here you can see Salen Baxter and Kirsty Besterman. I can't know if this is actually if they're in costume or if this was just.
It's like Sasha. It looks like the Master and the Doctor are having a lightsaber battle. Probably not, but that's what.
I think they're talking over some kind of barricade.
Right.
I think he's about to send the Doctor into the Phantom Zone, as far as I'm aware.
And talking to her over an LED light either way.
A lot of the pictures of the returning cast in this were actually from the last episode.
Yeah, some of it.
But then again, we also have more pictures.
Oh, is there another link?
Yes, there's another link at the bottom.
Okay.
Yep, you can see what I'm talking about in this picture.
Oh, more bondage.
Yeah, the Phantom Zone.
Although the one this week wasn't.
The Doctor's inside the glowy rings that are they're keeping her prisoner until the Phantom Zone passes overhead.
Why does that ring a bell?
Zod, you fool!
Yes, you will kneel before Zod.
No!
Oh God, the Master's is in a Joker suit. Unless that's just the lighting.
No, that's not exactly a Joker suit. It's a little too purpley.
Well, that's what I was referring to as the purple.
Usually actually it depends. Well, the plaid doesn't normally go with Joker though.
True, that's true.
I remember Jack
usually if it's a purple, it's a brighter purple.
Yeah, the Joker's outfit's usually a little bit louder than that. A purple and green. And yet we can see the Doctor and the Master on a burning hellscape, which might be Gallifrey.
Right.
Most likely after what we saw this last episode.
Yeah.
We see Ashad and the new Cyber Warriors, which are awesome.
And this might be the best image we've gotten of the new Cyber Warriors, I guess.
Okay. Yep. You can tell it is the chest piece is basically the Nightmare and Silver chest piece, but the abs are a new design.
Which cod piece is that?
I'm not sure. Talk to Bill and immediately start looking at the cyber groin.
Well, I think that's like the newest, like in terms of that's something we couldn't see last week.
It was, but I don't exactly look at cyber cod pieces and try to compare them for their version. If you want to do this, Bill, you can do this on your own time.
You were the one lecturing me about how it was a pastiche of full Cybermen and not a hybrid of two.
To be honest, I don't remember when Cybermen started having metal whitey tighties.
It actually started in Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel when we got the new metallic bodies, as opposed to the silver spray suit from the 80s.
And yep, that looks like it's adapted from the Cybermen. Not exactly the same though. Interesting.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm. But
more of Yaz and Gramson around.
But as I was going to say, yeah, they are. Especially if you look at the helmet, the faceplate of the helmet is definitely invasion style faceplate, which is good because it's really iconic. As are the little grooved side bits on there. But then the actual piping is taken more from the 80s Cybermen. And then the chest piece is from the Nightmare in silver.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the abs are new. I'd have to compare the groin. And I don't think they've changed anything on the leg work, really, but...
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the legs and arms are more or less the same as Nightmare in Silver.
Except I think they've lost the little hydraulic pipe in the back that the Cybermen used to have to make them look, hissy, stompy, because these guys don't need them.
Yeah, these guys don't need them, whereas the Cybermen need them to make them feel a little more heavy.
Is there anything from the Moon Base or Tomb Cybermen?
That would be the light on the helmet.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah. Although it looks like they had that in the or maybe I'm mixing up.
No, it never lit up in the Invasion.
Oh yeah, the lighting up. Okay, but I think it was there, just not.
Yeah, there was there, but I don't think they really used them.
Yeah. There was a hole there, but
that's what I'm looking at then. Okay.
Yeah. There was a hole there, but nobody knew what the use of the hole was. And then later they stuffed little tubes in there that were apparently launchers for something. Because that's how the Cybermen killed stuff in Revenge of the Cybermen. So. But the last time the headlight was obviously a headlight was Tomb, I think. Maybe the wheel, but we don't have many pictures from the wheel. So.
Really? We don't have really.
Jim needs to stop before he hurts himself.
Someone's corpsing on his jokes.
Apparently, something happens on the ship that we can't be certain, but it looks like the Cybermen are breaking in. So a little picture of Koshamas, Ryan. Oh, they've got guns.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they're glitter guns.
And here we can see them. It looks like the cyber invasion force on Koshamas coming into the tent, as we saw in the other one. Weapons drawn.
Ryan's using a sonic attack, Black Canary style.
I was going to think more Banshee, but yeah.
Yeah, same difference.
And then the Master doing a come with me to the doctor.
And then there's suddenly...
There's a few pictures there for the Doctor Master shippers.
How about no?
The Doctor possibly trying to choke the Master or possibly passing out. It's hard to tell which.
And then that shows them on Gallifrey, and you can see the Seal of Rassilon in the background.
Yep.
It looks like they're in the 8th Doctor's TARDIS. No, wait.
Actually, it almost does in some angles.
And apparently it's Gallifrey where they decide to send the Doctor to the Phantom Zone. I'm not giving that up, people.
No, that really does look like that.
The sequence of events
you hold on to it.
The backgrounds makes it seem that the Cyber Zealot is with them on Gallifrey.
It looks like it, especially if
the symbolism is not in that shot, so it might be.
If you look at the second picture with the Phantom Zone rings, you
see a Cyberman in the background, and it looks like it's got to be him because there's no headlight.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, and so I think they come.
And the rings are what seemed like a lightsaber in the previous gallery. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then apparently we've got some Gallifrey flashbacks.
Flashbacks are current stuff too, and it looks like the first one there has actually destroyed Gallifrey.
Apparently, in the coming soon trailer, there's a good segue scene from the offices from the B plot of the story in the Garda, and then that suddenly segues into Gallifrey. But if those are actually connected or they just decided to do a segue, we don't know. So that, I think, is it for the pictures.
Yep.
All right. So, as we have discussed quite a bit here, Doctor Who has a ratings problem. But does that mean that the series is skirting the shoals of cancellation? Definitely not, says Piers Wenger, the BBC's head of drama and a former Doctor Who producer. I worked on Doctor Who myself and produced it for many years, and I can honestly say I don't think it's been in better health editorially. The production values have never been better. It's also not just funded by the BBC, it's funded by lots of international partners. It's an incredibly important show for young audiences. It's still watched by families in a world where there are fewer shows that have the power to do that. It will always be an important show for us, and we're a very long way from wanting to rest it. Doctor Who has been co-funded by BBC America since the Matt Smith era, as well as picking up additional funding from Canada and China, making it a global production. It seems as long as that remains true, Doctor Who will continue. Now, Matt, I thought you said you had some comment on that?
Some comment on that is that I've been hearing whispers back and forth constantly. They've come and gone in Britain numerous times, but they've been really strong again that the British government is planning to cut BBC out of being part of the government anymore, and it's going to be its own standalone thing.
Sounds like something Bojo would want to do.
That has been an ongoing issue with the BBC for decades.
Yeah, it's been constantly questioned throughout the last 10, 20 years, whether or not they should continue to be funded by the government. And while they are funded by the government, they are also funded by the fact that they are forced every person in the UK to pay for the BBC to exist.
Yeah, that's their television.
Everybody's taxed. And to be honest, there's been a lot of people kind of going, I don't know if I even want to watch the BBC, essentially.
That's partially because a lot of the BBC shows have gotten very politically motivated in the last few years.
There's that. There's the fact that there's just some shows that just have been waning any interest whatsoever, and there's just a slew of things that make people question it. Also, the fact that isn't Dave outside of the BBC?
Yeah, it's an independent network.
So technically, there's technically people challenging it out there, and they're still live. So
that's ITV as well, is an independent. That's what ITV stands for, is independent television.
Does anybody know, is BBC the primary news source on British television?
I believe so, yes.
It is one of the bigger ones for sure.
Is there major competition, is what I should be asking, that would replace it if it went under?
If BBC went under, well, there's always the papers. The Radio Times, I believe, is connected to the BBC.
I believe so.
But the other ones are not that they have out there.
I don't think Radio Times is news per se, as just
no, that's entertainment.
It's like
news.
TV
it's mostly
guide.
entertainment news, but it's still news.
Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah.
So I mean something like.
Isn't the Guardian from Britain?
Yeah, but I don't think they have.
And they're still questionable. Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, BBC News is the major news organ of England.
Definitely for sure one of them.
So that, I think, is the primary argument in favor of making it still a tax, because they would lose out on having that access.
Well, if the BBC was cut free from the government, they would have to do what every other network is and start showing commercials regularly in the broadcast, the same thing we do in America.
That, or they would have to become like the PBS here.
The PBS here has government funding.
Yeah.
It's not as much as the BBC though, and PBS still keeps asking for your donations
Yeah.
because that's where the real funding comes from.
That's where most of their programming funding comes from. The government appropriation tends to pay for their hardware, their transmitters, that kind of stuff. But all the programming licensing, etc., tends to come from donations.
Well, have you seen how expensive trying to borrow shows is these days? I'm not surprised they need a lot of money for that.
Well,
That's why one of the main shows went to HBO.
And
Yeah,
they
that's
still
why they lost
get it back from HBO when they make new episodes, but they have to have the money to ask for HBO for it, though.
Yeah, they have to wait like a year or something before they can air it. Something like that, 6 months to a year.
Also,
something
not
like
surprised, but yeah.
Yeah, they have to wait until HBO is done with it, and then they can purchase it as a used program from HBO. But yeah, the reason certain shows' values have gone up is the reason PBS didn't carry it. It's why PBS stopped carrying Doctor Who in the 90s is BBC Worldwide raised the rate for it to something that PBS couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, the PBS around here bought it from Lionheart, who of course took all the episodes in a serial and sandwiched them together into a movie format, and then sold them to the PBS stations at a discount.
As they did.
But you'd stated the fact that it seemed to be hypocritical of them earlier, because this one is talking about how they got all this.
That's the other thing too, is that they're bragging an awful lot in this article about how they're getting all this extra funding.
Yes.
Specifically for enough to keep Doctor Who up, I think.
Yes, that's the thing. That's Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's not very clear. It's not very clear whether or not it's that's their only one though too. So it's like
there's
it's
only
most likely mostly Doctor
shows.
Who though.
It is. There's been a couple other shows that have gotten international funding before. I think Orphan Black was one of them that got
I think Orphan Black spread around quite a bit.
Top Gear got it for a while, but I think they've lost a good deal of it since they lost the trio.
Yeah. Also, didn't Merlin get really popular at one point too when they had that?
It did, but I'm not sure if that was the era where they were getting international funding or not, because that was way back in the 2000s. That was before Doctor Who even had international funding, or if it did, it was just Canada. But it only lasted 2 seasons and then went out.
Yeah.
Maybe 3, but
yeah, there's just a lot to take in, and we don't have all the information. So yeah, but it's a given right now that BBC has no plans, at least in the immediate future, to ever get rid of Doctor Who. Is the main point.
Yeah, a good thing for us.
Yeah,
it'll
keep us at least coming back for new seasons, even when we run out of other source material.
Yes.
Yes, we may turn into a limited term broadcast.
Or a seasonal podcast.
Or beg people for Big Finish donations.
Oh yeah, I can see our first pledge drive really being successful. Okay, moving on to the merchandise category.
Merchandising, and away have we got merchandise for you. The UK is getting a Doctor Who addition to its Build-A-Bear workshops. Officially licensed by the BBC, the Doctor Who bear features brand new blue paw pads and a blue heart on its chest.
I should point out that this is a blue double heart.
Yep.
Just to be certain.
It can be finished off with either the 10th Doctor or 13th Doctor's outfit and accessories. Each bear will arrive with a sonic screwdriver in its own TARDIS gift box. The Doctor Who bear is available online now for £21.50 with outfits and accessories starting at £8. This new range is available exclusively in the UK at the moment and can only be bought online at buildabear.co.uk. The range will be launching online in the US later this month.
So if you collect teddy bears and you're a Doctor Who fan, you're going to want to have your own Doctor Who bear.
Yep. And I have to say, starting out with the 10th and 13th Doctor was a good choice.
Yep.
Shouldn't it have been a Bill Paddington pair voiced by Peter Capaldi?
No. Just no, Bill. Sit down and report the Big Finish news.
You're fired.
All right. Mm-hmm. The Time War continues at Big Finish. Lala Ward, Louise Jameson, Sean Carlson, and Nicholas Briggs return to this third installment of Gallifrey's Time War series. 4 episodes are in this installment, including Hostiles by David Llewellyn, Nevermore by Lou Morgan, Mother Tongue by Helen Goldwyn, and Unity by David Llewellyn.
God, that guy can crank out episodes.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. Gallifrey Time War 3 is now available as a 5-disc collector's edition box set at £22.99 or as a digital download for $19.99.
All right, and that is all the news we have. It's been a quiet week, but I think everybody's kind of holding their breath for the series finale.
Basically. And
Yes.
then it really will be quiet.
Normally, this is the point where we would be moving on to Geek Talk, but of course, Thomas isn't here. So let's go on to the review of Shame.
By next week, he might have 5 movies to talk about the way he watches movies.
Yeah.
I envy his ability to watch so many movies all at once.
Yeah, so do I.
All right. Pyramids of Mars, Bill.
Yes, Pyramids of Mars,
I need a bell.
which is one that I had watched in the past, and but not in quite a while. So what to say about this episode? I did think that Discount Christopher Lee was an interesting addition, and definitely made it. It definitely helped giving a Hammer horror vibe to this. I don't remember the actor's real name. I wasn't a huge fan of the mummy designs. I kept having to remind myself that they were supposed to be mummies. I mean, they're robots, but mummies. And for a mummy-inspired episode, that doesn't seem like a good thing. It's also because it was very ambitious with all of the digital effects and things that were, I think, pretty cutting edge for state-sponsored TV in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I didn't love it. I thought that the ending was a little bit of a cop out with the doctor kind of like flipping a switch and being like, no, your big victory was actually your big failure because, I don't know, he reversed the polarity or something. And yeah, I didn't have really all that much to say about it.
Shame.
There's definitely some interesting visuals. I like the way they worked with mythology and that they tied in ancient aliens to Greek gods. I wish they'd done a little bit more with that. Overall, probably need a cup to say this, but I think I'd probably give it a 4.
You're going to give it a 4.
I think so.
Shame.
I think we're going to have to kill Bill.
So do we kill him now or murder him quietly in his sleep?
Okay. So Bill's rating of giving this a 4 will greatly affect the rating of this episode, dropping it from its previous 5.0 rating to 4.8.
Dun, dun, dun.
This will effectively drop it from where it had previously been number 5 on our list down to number 14, at least.
Now who's negative?
Well, that's Bill. He's basically been our negative Nancy for a while now.
Yep.
Unless it's a 10th Doctor episode and Aaron's here.
I don't have a bell, but I have a Ramune bottle, so...
So Bill just took probably considered to be one of the greatest classic Tom Baker episodes and just kicked it in the dick.
Fuck you too, Bill.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Yep. Oh well.
All right, so let's move on from that shameful review
Shame.
and go on to elements of Doctor Who, and let's talk about the Cybermen. I believe this is something like the 6th or 7th generation Cybermen that we have seen.
Depends on how many generations you count the second Doctor as having.
The what?
The second Doctor era, because there's three different.
Technically had
costumes.
2 generations of Cybermen for a second Doctor, so that's 3
Okay.
at that point.
Because I think
80s is 4.
I think Moonbase, Wheel, Tomb, and Revenge all had different costumes.
Yes. So the original 1.0 is 10th Planet Cybermen. That's the one that basically looks like they're wearing a nylon outfit, because they are. Nylon outfit with bits added. Then you've got the Moonbase Cybermen, or I think or Tomb Cybermen, which is the metallic face. That looks like they just basically took the previous model and wrapped it in a thin layer of metal, and then tried to make it look good.
I think they made the chest bits smaller and stuff like that.
Yeah, they made it less bulky, smaller bit on the head. The third design,
yeah, there was a third generation.
is the wheel of space, the wheel design, where the mouth had a little downward bit on it.
Yeah,
and that's I think where you first see the cyber tears appear.
I believe you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like you're right.
But the arms having basically the wiffle ball pipes still exist.
Yep. It's an upgrade to the helmet mostly.
Then you get the invasion design, in which the cyber outfit is essentially a tunic with a chest piece on a metallic tunic with a chest piece on it. But the helmet gets that iconic facial with tears and the straight mouth and basically the headphones look. That particular version of it was continued to be used for Revenge of the Cybermen in the Tom Baker era. And then, of course, Tom Baker didn't fight the Cybermen again, and we didn't see them again until Invasion, which is when you get the Mark V Cyberman design, which is basically them in a snowsuit, spray-painted metallic silver, with the chest piece over the top of it.
And wearing heavy-duty gloves with moon boots.
Heavy-duty gloves, moon boots. And then the head, which is... they lose the teardrop, gain a nose ridge, and a jawline.
Also, I think you referred to Earthshock as Invasion.
Oh yeah, well that's that. Well, no, I said the Invasion, and then the '80s design is what I said.
Because you were saying, yeah, you said Tom Baker, then Invasion, and then.
Well, no, it's like they took the Invasion design and then made these differences.
Gotcha.
Oh, they didn't even make any differences. It literally, the one time that the Cybermen appeared with Tom Baker they pulled out the same Invasion suits.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Yeah, they took the Invasion suits, but
they
what I'm saying,
added maybe little details and then just pushed it out there.
But for the '80s design, they for the facial design, they took the '80s helmet, removed the teardrops, added that little nose ridge about halfway through, and the jaw bit. Added the little side earpieces on the pipes. And that's the design that went to the '80s. There is basically a 5.5 design that they used for Silver Nemesis, which was a different shade of silver.
They chromed them.
Yeah, different boots, and they changed the jaw piece a little bit.
They changed the jaw piece a little bit. All the chest pieces and helmets got chromed. The reason they also changed the jaw piece a little bit is because they had issues during Earthshock. Because if you watch very carefully, you'll actually see first of all that they had to add. They tried spray painting the clear jaw pieces, but they saw too much, so they added tinfoil, And then if you watch even closer later on to the serials, you'll see that their voice changers actually start falling off their helmets and start sliding in next to their chins.
So they redid the design for Silver Nemesis.
So yeah, they completely rehauled the paint job and did a better job of holding the mechanics inside the helmet.
But the same base design was
the same basic design. They just redid some details.
And then the version 6 is the Cybermen design used in Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel.
And that would be the continuation for quite a while, except for maybe changing the chest piece.
When they changed the chest piece, I call that the 6.5 design.
Yep.
Because the rest of it was functionally the same. They just removed the Cybus logo because they weren't supposed to be Cybus Cybermen anymore. Version 7 was the Nightmare in Steel design. Which you had the little glowing chest piece that had kind of the bird-like design on the outside.
Both this one and the Cybermen brought back the teardrops.
Yes.
And I will say that while it's a little less bulky, the version 7s, they are much more how to put it, plated. So is that how you would describe that? Yeah.
Yeah, they added ridges down the
down torsos, down the legs. Yeah.
They started lifting.
Yeah, they added the ridges.
Cyber six packs.
They the design itself has been called on the internet as the Iron Man.
It does in some ways, resemble that.
It doesn't help that they could fly in at least one serial.
Does not help that they could fly, and does not help that we didn't really have a chest light for a very long time.
Yep.
And even when they did have a chest light, that wasn't always permanently on. Same with the previous headlights.
Now, I believe this design continued through.
This one continued through until this latest episode.
I think so. I was double checking Darkwater.
Yeah, Darkwater doesn't have it at the same, and then the next one was a montage of.
Yeah, costume. but the most modern design was the same Nightmare in Silver design.
Right.
Because originally they had the classic, and then they skipped the 80s. Which I always
that's
always annoyed me.
With a perfect chance to bring in a few of the 80s Cybermen actors, for crying out loud. At least to voice them.
Yeah, but there wasn't any serious. If there was helmet changes for the Dr. Falls, it was very minor. So if anything, that might be a 7.5 design.
Just the same suit with minor markups.
Minor markups. So this one is what I'm going to call the version 8 Cyberman.
And the version 8 just seems to take from everything.
Yeah, it's kind of what I refer to it as the pastiche Cyberman. Because it's taking the best bits from like all the previous designs.
It's basically got an invasion face with bits of the invasion helmet.
The invasion face and the invasion earmuffs, essentially.
Actually, no. It's the invasion face with the 80s earmuffs.
Basically, that's the same earmuffs.
The handlebars are bulkier.
The handlebars are bulkier, and I was going to say the handlebars themselves are the 80s design, more or less, with maybe an additional wrapping on the bottom.
Also that's the big thing. I consider the earmuffs like the whole what's on against the head as well as the handlebars. I've never differentiated between the two.
If you take a look at the 80s earmuffs and the new ones, they're closer to the invasion inside.
They did bring back the invasion head circle in the helmet, but then added a light back into it like the previous ones had,
which makes it more of a 60s headlight.
It's based like it, but then it has the actual return to the 60s headlights. They still They still have the. It still appears like they have the arms and the chest piece left over from the Nightmare in Silver.
Yeah.
And I think from like the abs down, they've redone it again as well. They added
yeah,
like little touches of Cybermen and a few other things.
Yeah, it's the Nightmare in Silver did not have a groin piece.
Nope.
A cod piece like that because the chest piece was basically connected.
Yeah, it was connected all the way down with those riveted plates, and then just stopped there at the bottom.
Now
and
that
then
I'm
gaps.
looking at the designs.
Yeah. Yeah, I managed to get a picture that has like all of them.
The groin piece is closest to the Cybus design, but it's not.
It's a little different, yeah.
It's still a little bit different, but it's the closest to it.
Yeah.
It's like a combination of Nightmare in Silver and Cybus. It's rivets all the way down, and then you get the cod piece from Cybus.
Yeah, and again, the abs piece in the Ascension Cybermen are new. They are it's a different design and piping. It actually looks kind of cool. Crap, I have to go back to our news to actually get those pictures. I can't look up Ascension Cybermen, damn it.
Yeah, I was just got to say I might have to go back to the news to double check what what their legs looked like again.
Oh yeah, you're right. Those are new abs in the new news article.
Yeah,
that's right. Because we were speculating because before we could only see from the chest up, and the chest piece is Nightmare in Silver, but below the chest piece, that's like nothing I've ever seen before that I can think.
Yeah,
of.
that's a completely new design.
It's like essentially a streamlined version of the Cybus, and even then, it's still got lots of new touches.
We have yet to hear the new Cybermen speak. The only two that have been speaking have been the old Cybus men and the and Ashad. So
yeah, the lone Cyberman. Yeah,
I think when they screamed, they were using the traditional Nick Briggs Cyberman voice.
That did sound like the Nick Briggs voice, but
that was just the one that was getting cut up, and we're not sure what that particular Cyberman did to that one.
Yeah, I think they were loading in. I think they were loading in new programming.
Well, if
the new programming might have updated the voice.
If you notice, I'm pretty sure they were wearing the invasion suit when he walked up to them, and he's literally just like cutting bits of the suit off and putting like you don't actually see cutting bits off, you just see him drilling. But I think he was actually physically upgrading them on the spot.
They were not wearing the invasion suit.
No, they were not, Bill.
I thought in the pods they were.
No,
I don't know if there's.
Nope, they were the new ones. They were already physically the new ones.
When they did the ground to top shot, that was the new suit completely. They had the chest piece; it just wasn't lit because they were inactive.
Okay.
I paid attention to that.
I haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet, so I'll take your word for it.
I paid very close attention to when I rewatched it. It does look like the cod piece is attached to this, but it has more ridges than the old Nightmare in Silver design. So, it's basically just different grooves in design. It does make it look like they're wearing a cod piece more. It's like freaking Superman's tights.
Yeah. Like I said, it looks like they have chrome tidy whities.
The little cyber BVDs. It looks they're still using the arm guns.
Yeah. Was that something from Nightmare in Silver?
That's something they've had since Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel, but it looks like they've gone through a minor redesign.
Yeah, I'm also seeing that particular gun on the Nightmare in Silver, though. So
yeah.
So they've had that for a little while.
I do miss the old Cybermen handhelds. Just gave them something to do in the 80s.
The old rifles?
Yeah.
I think they showed a rifle really quick in this one, didn't they?
Held by Cybermen?
Yeah. I think the lone Cyberman had one for a moment or two.
Oh, well.
He's different, yeah.
I think he might have picked up one of the Resistance's rifles and just kind of tossed it.
Oh no, I know it was on a Cyberman ship. Also, I have to double check. I think the Cybermen had guns too. Gosh, I need to go back again.
I didn't remember seeing them with guns, but it is. It might have been when they didn't have enough power to. I don't know.
I know the electrocution thing made them more different from the Daleks, but that didn't last long.
But these things coming out in bulk looked extra creepy.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of CGI on their part, duplicating, like 4 to 6 actors, to make it look like there were 10,000 of them. A trick that they've also done with Daleks. It still worked very, very well.
Oh yeah.
All in all, I like this design. Adding the earmuffs back on really gives it that classic Cyberman look. Technically speaking, the older design had the earmuffs. They were just really, really tiny, and enough that you didn't really notice them at all.
Oh, I am looking back, and yes, the Cybermen had guns this episode.
Oh, they did.
Okay.
Yep.
So that might mean that they were so malfunctioning that they didn't have their hand blasters.
I'm looking for the wrist guns, and I don't see that they have any.
Might have been destroyed.
That's a possibility.
Because they were both battle damaged.
Yeah, these things got beat the shit out of.
Although I think they were Cyber Legion rather than Cybus, if I remember.
Oh, they were the later Cybus, yeah.
Yeah. They did not have the Cybus logo, so it's still the 5.0 design or the 5.5 design.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to try and see if I can find out where I swear that the lone Cyberman had a gun. I think it was when he was on the ship, so that's going to be hard to find. Lots of back and forth from the ship.
Anyway.
But anyway, yeah, continue on.
There's not a lot of screenshots online.
There's not much more we can say about these things, other than the fact I really like this new design. I hope this becomes a new standard for them.
For at least a while, yeah.
The new helmet looks awesome.
Speaking of
helmets,
helmet
is an improvement.
What did you guys think of the cyber drones?
I'm not sure what to think about them. That seemed like a cheap way to just get away with getting rid of the usual problems that the Cybermen have.
Yeah,
I thought it was a little cheesy myself.
Yeah, the fact that they just basically look like floating cyber heads.
Yeah.
See, what I would have done instead is I would have sent Cybermats. At least they have a partial weakness where they can't just fly around.
That we know of. And
they're still dangerous, so they could still attacked.
Or I would have, if I had drones, I would not made them design like a cyber head.
Yeah, if they're going to have Cyberman drones, they at least don't go with the corny, it's just a floating helmet.
Yeah, it would have been nice to actually see something that maybe looked like a miniature version of a cyber ship.
Right.
Or something like that,
Or even I could even see because I think, there was in one episode there was, what was it, like a cyber dog or cyber monkey or something. If they had cyber ravens, I could see that.
I think it was the new Doctor or something like that. It was during Tenant that they had a cyber monkey essentially.
Yeah, that thing did not look good. Let's not remember that one.
But I mean, imagine if they took birds and eagles or something and cyber fitted them.
They would have to do a better job than they did on the frickin' cyber monkey, because
that's true.
That thing was terabad.
Oh, the thing that I thought was a gun was actually, I think, the drill that the lone Cyberman went at the new guys with
makes
for the
sense.
update. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was mistaken. I wasn't paying enough attention. There, I figured it out. But yeah, the two Cybermen had guns for some reason.
Probably because theirs were broken or not powered.
Quite possibly.
Because the Cybermen, the guns actually pop out. So.
Yeah, there might have been a dysfunction or something. They couldn't pull out the weapons like normal.
Yep. But yeah, these new ones look interesting. I can't admit how much I like this design, especially the helmet. It screams 1,000 times of classic Cybermen to me.
Yeah.
Brings back all of the horror with a new updated look.
It's because when they keep updating the helmet, it always seems like they're trying so hard to bring it into whatever decade it's in. Whereas the the late 60s or 70s one was just so iconic. It was so simple, but it was perfection.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s they tried to improve on it, and then in the 2000s they tried to improve on it. And it was like, but the 70s one is still the best.
Yeah, it's like when the Doctor saw a cyberhead in the episode Dalek in that museum, it was an Invasion grade cyberhead or a Revenge of the Cybermen cyberhead. It was that same basic design.
It would have to be the Invasion because Revenge is set in the future.
I know when it is, but I'm talking about how it looked.
Gotcha.
Because I can't remember if it had the 4 things in the helmet or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember for
sure. Remember, there is a large space-time rift going through Cardiff.
So for all we know, a future Cyberman could have accidentally fallen in and someone ripped it apart.
And the Cybermen are really not concerned about preserving.
Or yeah, it just could have been that in the middle of combat, somehow it slipped through time space and ended up on Earth, and it's just a head.
Because remember, he bought most of his shit at auction, so...
Although, speaking of Invasion, that brings up the theory that I wanted to mention, and is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this here. But I think that the Cyberiad is basically the cyber controller having gotten to the point of just becoming a program that gets passed around rather than having a physical form.
Well, it would have had to, since he was killed in Attack of the Cybermen. It might be a replacement for the controller.
Might be a replacement that's trying to look for a new physical form for controller, yeah.
And it's Cyberium. Cyberiad was the one from Nightmare and Silver, but it's probably an evolution of the same concept.
Yeah. Having 2 different versions of that was not wise. I think they just forgot to watch Nightmare and Silver before writing the episode.
Would have been nice to remember that, guys.
We're kind of mixing our cybs a little close here.
Either that or the Cyberiad had an era and it got destroyed, and the next generation of Cybermen came up and basically created the same thing, only called it the Cyberium. It's the difference between an emperor and an imperator, you know?
Anywho.
Anyway, I can't really think of anything else we can talk about these new Cybermen. We haven't really heard them talk, so I can't tell if Nick Briggs is going to be using a new vocal modulator, or if they're going to sound exactly like they sounded with the Cybus.
I'll say one thing: as long as they're not chanting "delete, delete" for the next hour,
please bring back excellent. I liked excellent. Give them that little piece of 80s.
Actually, give the new leader excellent.
I don't know if this leader has enough positivity in his life to call something excellent.
Let Nicholas Briggs do that, but if they use these in the future without the freaking, without a shod, and they use a new cyber leader, bring back David Banks.
Yeah.
Have Nicholas Briggs be all the other little cyber lieutenants, whatever, all reporting to David Banks as the cyber leader. I
have David Banks be cyber leader, and maybe even give him cyber controller if they decide to bring that back too.
Well, if that's the Cyberium.
Yeah. I just realized controller might not have been who I was thinking of.
The cyber controller was the big boss.
Well, because there was the one that was man shaped, which is not the one I'm talking about. And then there was the one that was like just the bits of parts and a computer from Invasion.
I wasn't thinking of that. I was talking about the one you saw in Tomb, and then later.
Yeah, because I think that's
Tomb and later in Revenge, not Revenge.
Later in Attack. Yeah.
Attack.
But what was the name of the one that I was trying to talk about? I should have it in a second.
The one that had the truly mechanical voice?
Yes, the Cyber Planner. That's what I meant to say.
Which was what Mr. Clever was.
Yes. Or what? I thought it was supposed to be like a new version of it or something. But was that like the amalgamated minds of the Cybermen? Or whatever?
Kind of.
Although granted, the amalgamated minds thing was a big Finish concept, but...
Yeah, I think so.
Bill.
I mean, everything they've done this season fits in well enough into the spare parts continuity that you don't have to ignore it, but they're not held to that.
Yeah,
either.
but you seem to frequently mix a lot of Big Finish stuff in with regular format.
Well, that's what happens when material is licensed. It's the same.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I was gonna
it wouldn't
say,
have
I
been
don't know. They
licensed.
can borrow some ideas, but it's not necessarily canon.
Yeah, 200 Star Trek books were licensed from Paramount, but I wouldn't call them canon.
Otherwise, the Eighth Doctor would be not considered canon.
He's
pretty
only
much
canonized
isn't.
by the fact that he's referenced his companions in the Night of the Doctor special.
Yeah, only the companions he mentioned by name are considered canon, and I'm pretty sure
Other
that
than
eliminates
that,
half of them.
Yep.
His
Mary
only
Shelley
other
never
than that,
actually-
his only canon thing would have been the '96 movie.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Hey, Bill, I want Frobisher. It's not going to happen.
That would be a great Children in Need special, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it's summary time.
I suppose.
I think so. I think we've said all we can about these.
Mm-hmm.
All right, get the stopwatch started.
Stopwatch is already here. It's been waiting. Hello.
All right.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so following the coordinates given to the Doctor by the in the previous episode, the TARDIS goes to the far future, to the end of the Cyber Wars, and they find a camp with the last surviving humans, which are what, 6? Something like that?
Something
6
like
or
that.
7, yeah.
6.
Just as they show up, unfortunately, 2 cyber shuttles make a landing, and the Doctor quickly sets up defenses to try to save these people. The Cybermen send out these little cyber drones, which basically annihilate the defenses, and the formerly meek "we're not soldiers" people suddenly want to start fighting because 2 of them were killed. The Doctor, of course, convinces them to run away and get away, asks the companions to go with them, while she turns to face the Cybermen alone. The companions, instead of running, stand there like a bunch of idiots until the weapons start flying, and then they try to run. But of course, by that time, they're seen by the Cybermen. In the confusing battle, Ryan gets lost instead of going with Graham and Yaz, who make it to the refugee ship, which had previously stated to be inoperable because they didn't have parts. Well, they suddenly make it operable and fly into space. Did I mention the fact that this ship basically looks like they built it from an old Gravitron amusement park ride?
Yep.
But they blast off into space. The Doctor confronts Ashad, the cyber zealot, who makes some statements. They manage to get away from that attack with him and manage to hijack a cyber shuttle with the help of Ryan, who found the Doctor, and one of the other surviving humans. So they take off. The flying Gravitron, which is all I'm going to call it, its engine blows up in the middle of things, but doesn't kill them all. Instead, they're powerless in the middle of a old battlefield, which now has tons and tons of floating dead Cybermen drifting in space. They find a ship, and through the most convoluted way, somehow managed to land perfectly in its docking bay. I would like to figure this out because they were rotating in all 360 degrees at one point during the trip.
Mm-hmm.
They land, they get out, and they basically walk their way to cyber control. Graham and one of the humans decides to take a walk, Ravio, I think her name is, and they discover that this ship is a cyber carrier, basically carrying tons and tons of Cybermen, estimated around 10,000 or so.